begin with. So, yeah, let's talk vocabulary to begin with. So the capital that is used or the money that is used to start or expand a business, and then the money that's left after all your expenses are paid, that's your profit, right? So there are basically three different types of businesses, like in terms of how they're kind of perceived, that type of thing. So the first one is if you have what's referred to as sole proprietorship. And so that's a single person owning a company, owning a business of some kind, right? You could have a partnership also. And that's gonna be a group of people, obviously. And then there are corporations, right? Corporations. So, there are advantages in terms of liability and taxes and that type of thing. There are advantages and disadvantages to owning your own company, being a corporation, and that type of thing. So the issue with being the owner or being in a partnership is that you could be held personally liable. Personally, I can't spell and talk at the same time today, apparently. So yeah, if you're in a partnership or you're the sole owner of a company, then you are going to be responsible for the debts and all of the bills and all of that good stuff for that particular company, paying the electric bill, paying the employees, all of that kind of stuff, right? Whereas like corporations usually end up becoming what's referred to as an LLC. Oops, I can't spell. So limited liability corporation is what that's the abbreviation for. So with limited liability corporations, what's happening is that it limits the amount of money that anybody could earn from you if you tried to sue them, that type of thing. So you're not going to be able to lose any more than the value of the shares that you have. Like I said, there's a few other advantages in terms of tax benefits, being able to raise more capital if you're a corporation, that type of thing. So if you're thinking about owning a business, you do have to kind of look at or think about or consider some of these. If you're a corporation, you can sell stock, so then you can earn more money, that type of thing, right? I'm sorry, I'm reading through. I have some tiny little notes in my margin that I want to kind of look through and decide if I want to talk with you about these or not. Nope, okay, I'm good. All right. So in a corporation, each owner who invests money in the corporation receives shares of the stocks. In that corporation, and then they're called the shareholders, right? And I'm sure you guys have heard of the term of like a majority shareholder or a minority shareholder. So a majority of shares would be 50% plus one more, right? When anyone can purchase stock in a corporation, then that's considered a public corporation and you can buy that stock. Okay, so that would be, you can typically raise more money, more capital when you're public, so that's the advantage of that. So McDonald's, Apple, Nike, those are some public, Tesla, all of that type of stuff. When all of the shares are owned by a few individuals or are not available for sale to the public, then that's what's considered a private corporation. And there's still stocks, but it's just that you cannot, regular Joe Schmo out there in the world can't buy the stock. You have to actually be like an owner in the, like work for the company or that type of thing. Yeah. All right, just a little bit of math here that we need to kind of go through and talk about. So Andy owns 5/7 of a partnership. What percent of the partnership does he own? Then yes, we are truly just doing 5 divided by 7 and getting the decimal and converting to percent, right? So 0.714. So 71.4%. So like I said, the math is pretty straightforward in this section. It's really just kind of a good introductory unit. Okay. Let's take a look at some other examples here though. Lisa owns 28% of the corporation. Rest of the shares are owned equally by the remaining 6 shareholders. What percent of the corporation does each of the other shareholders own? Okay, so we got to figure out if Elisa owns 28%, then the others own 72%, and there's 6 of them. So if we do 72 divided by 6, then we find that each of the others owns 12%. That makes sense, right? Okay. Total number of shares of stock in the Bowles Corporation is 650,000. Mike owns 12%. How many shares of the company does he own? So it's truly just taking 0.12 of that 650,000. So what is that? Let me see. So 78,000 shares. Ryan owns 3/8 of a florist shop worth this amount of money. What is the value of Ryan's share? So truly just multiply as that is. You could change it to a decimal. You could keep it as that fraction. Take your pick. Right? What is that? 28.5. What's this next one? Invests 15,000, 4 other partners. Total investment of all partners is 240,000. What part of the business does Michelle own? So let's take a look at that. So we're doing 15,000 over 240,000. So that's 1/16, which is 0.0625 or 6.25%. Okay, not too bad, guys. Annie invests 25,000, 4 other partners, total investment is 110. What part of the business is owned by the 4 other partners? So the 4 other partners. So how are we gonna do that? Similar process, so 25,000 over the 110,000. Right, so that gives us 5 over 22. So that's Annie's part, so that means the other is 17 out of 22, and we get that decimal.
Wait, how did you get 17 and 22?
If we do the math here for the 25,000 over the 110,000, we get that that's that fraction of 5 over 22. And so that's Annie's part. I'm going to put an A here. And this is really messy. I'm trying to write in that small space and it's not working well. So let me make this bigger. So if Annie's portion is the 5 out of 22, then all of the others, their portion is 17 out of 22, right? And so that's, 77.3% for the others. Okay, does that make sense?
I just don't know how you got 17. Like, where does that number come from?
I'm just subtracting here, so if I've got 5 out of 22, then to get what the other part's gonna be, I'm doing 22 minus 5
Oh,
to get the 17. So those together have to add to get this, the 22 out of 22. Sorry, I wasn't being very clear about that. Okay. Bert and Ernie are partners in a local grocery store. They invested in this particular ratio. So the 3 to the 5. So the key on that is realizing that that's a total of 8 parts. Right? So that's saying that Bert is 3 out of 8 and Ernie is 5 out of 8, right? And what were they asking? It's what's the percentage for each of those? So Bert's the 3 out of 8. What percentage is that? 37.5%. And then Ernie, the 5 out of 8, and that's 62.5%. Okay. All right. Investing $900,000, 2 to 3 to 5. So the key is realizing that we are talking about a total then out of 10. So partner, let's call them A, B, and C instead of 1, 2, 3, just to keep them straight. So partner A is 2 out of 10, B is 3 out of 10, and C is 5 out of 10. So we know that's half of it, right? And so that implies that they're at $450,000. The 2 out of 10, that's gonna be 20%. And 20% is $180,000. And then the 3 out of 10, the 30%. And that implies how much? $270,000.
so for that, do you just take like 30% of the 900,000?
Yep, there you go. So just 0.3 times the 900,000, 0.5 times the 900,000, 0.2 times the 900,000. Yep. Okay. And then last one here, Joe, Tina, and Taylor invested in a partnership in this ratio, 1 to 4 to 7. So if you notice, if you think about that, that's a total of 12 that we're gonna be talking. Years later, when the partnership was worth 1.6 million, Tina decides to go to graduate school and sells her part of the partnership to Joe. Okay, so how much would Joe need to pay Tina to buy her share of the business round to the nearest dollar? Okay, so Tina had 4 out of 12 to begin with, which is 1/3. So if you do 1/3 of the 1.6 million, then you get that's $533,333. Okay, so I'm just doing 1/3, or the 1.6 million divided by 3, right? And then on this last question, it's saying what percent, oops, all right, Ireland. Sorry, what percent, again, of the business will Joe own after he buys Tina's portion? So Joe had, to begin with, he had 1, but he added those 4 more out of the 12. So he's got 5 out of 12, which is about, let me check my math, 41.7%. Okay. All right. The other thing I need to talk with you about is the stock market information. I want to give you the dates that you need to get written in there. So we're going to go through and talk about the information. We're going to kind of read through some of this together, but do me a favor, and on the front page, it says due, and I need you to write that in. It is due Tuesday, April 23rd, 11:11 a.m.
April 23rd.
Yep. At 11:11 a.m. In other words, basically, as you walk in the door that day, you're gonna hand this paper into me, this bright yellow packet, okay? So there are some other dates, though, that we need to get written in there. So we'll read through this information, but do me a favor, flip to that, basically, 1, 2, 3, page 3, where it says company profile research. So that is due by Friday, March 15th at 8 a.m. Go ahead and put a note on that page at the top, due by Friday. That's gonna be a scan and submit,
Wait,
okay?
March
March 15th. And then the next page also, where it says initial stock purchases, complete by. So those also need to be due, those are also due by Friday, March 15th at 8 a.m. So get that date written in on that page. And that'll be a scan and submit, okay? That next page where it says week 1, complete that by Friday, March 22 at 8 a.m.
Week 1.
Week 1, so at the top there, Friday, March 22 at 8 a.m. And then next page where it says week 2 is due by Friday, April 5 at 8 a.m. Friday, April 5. Week 3 is due by Friday, April 12 at 8 a.m. And then last page, your cash out, and then the questions answered. That's the last week. So that is the due date, which is Tuesday, April 23 at 11:11. Okay,